Hi, and welcome to rekrycast episode 14. rekrycast is a podcast hosted by aTalent, a recruiting agency specialized in helping companies find and attract talents in the fields of IT, business, and engineering. Most of our episodes are in Finnish, but for today's hot topic, we decided to switch to English. My name is Outi Mäkinen, and today we're talking about hiring and building a team for early stage startups. And together with me for this topic, we have a guest. So without further ado, welcome Jukka Kujala.
Thanks, Outi, for having me here at the recrycast podcast. It's great to be here. It's actually my first podcast. I'm kind of excited to be here. A little bit about my background. So I'm working at icebreaker.vc. We're a venture capital company, and I'm the head of talent there. And what I do is I basically help out our portfolio companies with recruiting HR issues that they're having while they're trying to build their teams.
Great. So you could actually say this topic is like the perfect match for you.
It is. Icebreaker VC, short, we're a VC company, as I mentioned. We focus on very early stage companies. So our funding has been between 50 to 350,000. And the team sizes have been basically like 2 people and an idea, or then like 5 to 6 people and already having like a product and maybe a few customers. So that's kind of the stage that I've been focusing on.
Okay. Perfect. I think we're going to have a really interesting discussion for that area today, definitely.
Looking forward.
Great. So basically, should we start off with the first area or topic? What are the most important things in building the initial team? I'm talking about the kind of the founding team or the co-founding members. What do you consider to be the most important thing?
Well, at Icebreaker, we kind of talk about this minimum viable company. So you should have kind of the most essential building blocks in getting the whole thing kicked off. Basically having someone with domain expertise, so what you'll be actually working on. Then someone from the technical product side, be able to build the software product, for example. And then someone from the business sales side to get things going on. And then also talking about these kind of like soft skills. So definitely having focus on the execution part. Then having someone who can be the leader of the company, driving things forward, making the first sales, recruiting people into the team. That's super important.
Yeah.
And what else?
Are there typically like many people in the co-founding team, or is there such a thing like the 2 co-founders or 5 co-founders, or does it vary a lot?
It does vary, but then again, there's no fixed rule for that.
Yeah.
And I think what we've seen is that the more people there are in the co-founding team, that makes it a bit more difficult, maybe.
Yeah.
So maybe focusing on having like 2 to 3 people and then getting more people on board. And one thing that's super important is actually the motivational part. So how motivated are people to jump on board this train and be there for the next 5 to 7 years?
Yeah.
So that's really tricky. And I just came across, I think it was a month ago, First Round Capital has this really good blog in the States, and they published this like co-founder dating questionnaire guide.
Nice.
I can send you the link, but it had like 50 different questions.
Okay.
And kind of going through all those questions with your co-founder will give you some good insights whether you're actually a good match or not.
That's probably a good comparison regards to dating, because I mean, all the startup founders that I know, they have their ups and downs with their co-founders, and probably that's normal because you hang out so much and you're so motivated or passionate. So there must be clashes as well. So how do you handle those situations? So that's a nice idea.
It's actually pretty close to dating, I would say, because
sure.
You have to use like a lot of time in the beginning to meet different kinds of people, discuss, actually then start talking about a lot of deeper level things, then also working together. So actually seeing what kinds of skills and experience do you have and how you can use that to build the company.
And founding a company is not easy, so you can't kind of expect it always to be a fun ride. So you have to be able to deal with each other when it's hard as well.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. What about then thinking about you mentioned a bit about like the roles or the typical positions that the co-founding members have. But when we're talking about kind of the first non-co-founding team members, what kind of roles do startups typically hire the first employees in a way that are not part of the co-founding team?
I'd say the first hires are into the tech product team of the company. Yeah. So adding talent that are able to build. Well, we focus primarily on software companies. So in those cases, it's been software developers, for example, that have been the first hires. Obviously, it depends a lot on the co-founding team and their capabilities and skills. So if they are very technical, then maybe adding someone to the sales side makes more sense. So if they've already been able to build the first version of the product, they have been piloting it with some customers, they even have some customers that are paying for the product, then it would make sense maybe to add someone to the sales or customer success side.
Yeah. Okay. So basically developers, sales, or customer success or marketing or something like that.
I'd say those are like the first roles. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What about then, how do startups find talent? If you're kind of like early stage startups, you're starting to build the team, how do you go about recruiting talent for the startup's needs?
That's a very interesting question.
That's a hard one as well, for sure.
It's super hard. And we, for example, the icebreaker portfolio companies, many of the founders there are first-time founders. Okay. So many of them might not have any prior recruiting experience. So really, like, you start from the very basics. And I've been encouraging a lot to go with the kind of network way. So diving into your own networks. Who are the people that you know? Let's take like the software developer as an example. So you know at least one software developer. So that's a good starting point. So sending them a message, having a lunch or a coffee, chatting and letting them know that you have this challenge that needs to be taken care of, and you have this product that needs to be built. You have an idea of who you're looking for, and then taking it forward. Maybe that person will get excited, maybe they won't, and then if they don't, then asking them maybe for an introduction to find a person who is more suitable for the role, because many of the founders they first start off with looking for a software developer, and then they talk to the first software developer, and then they find out that they're actually looking for a front-end developer, and they were talking to a back-end developer. So then you learn that, okay, I need to talk to a front-end developer, and then that's kind of the next person you go and talk to. And if doing these like iterations, you end up always going into a bit more to the righter direction, then kind of in theory, you will land on finding that person that will be the best person to join your team. Yeah,
it might take a while, but sounds like a good plan to start off somewhere, because otherwise it might be costly, it might take way too much time in a way. So
yeah,
sounds good.
And I kind of maybe listing out some problems that make this whole thing difficult. Yeah. So something that I've seen is that, well, you're not hiring for super defined roles, so you're actually not fully aware of what this job will be for the person that will be joining the company. That makes it very difficult. You don't have a very clear profile in mind on who you're looking for. So I'm looking for a software developer. That's not really clearly defined. Yeah. And then, well, nobody knows you. So you just founded a company called something, and nobody's even heard about it. So that's a huge problem for you. And then also your offering is actually super risky. Yeah. So what if your company doesn't take off? Will this person get their paycheck in the next 3 months or so? Would they need to find another job after that? So that's like four problems that make your job very difficult about hiring people in the beginning. Yeah. And that kind of highlights why you should go to the networks and just start talking to people, because then you start to learn more.
Yeah, and you know more about who you should hire in a way, because that's something that if you're, as a co-founder, you have a developer background, you might not know what you're looking in the salesperson, or the other way around. If you're a salesperson or a business person, it might be really hard to kind of actually get into the developer's head that what should you in a way offer them or be able to tell them about the role. So one step at a time.
Exactly.
Sounds like a plan. What about then regarding resources? Startups often they lack money, but most of all they lack time, or at least they have a lot of things they should do with their time. So how do you kind of tackle these two problems or challenges that you might have as a startup founder with regards to hiring and recruiting? Since of course hiring takes time, hiring often takes money. In a traditional company, at least, a lot of money is used to be able to recruit and attract talent. So how to kind of hack the system in a way that you could do it, I don't know, more efficiently or more cheaply.
That's true. Resources are super scarce. There's a lot of work to do on the table.
Yeah.
And I think many startups, many of the founders, they're very surprised on how much effort recruiting and hiring actually takes. So they, especially the ones that haven't been recruiting before, so they think that it will be quite easy. You put up like a job post online, you spread some job ads, and then you get like the perfect applications, and then you just hire someone. But it really doesn't work like that, and especially not in a super early stage startup. So kind of getting past that surprise first, and then, well, I mentioned like the network part already. Definitely sticking to that, meeting people on a regular basis, having one or two lunches with potential recruits every week, doing that very consistently helps a lot.
Yeah.
And then something I'd also like to raise out is just talking about your work and about your company, like everywhere, to your family, to your friends, to your ex-colleagues, both online and offline, and just like spreading the word. I've noticed that many founders are kind of a bit like shy to tell what they're working on because it's not ready yet.
Okay.
Well, it will actually never be ready.
Yeah.
Ready. So kind of overcoming that shyness and just like talking about yourself, your company. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to build. This is what we're already done, and this is what we're doing next. I think that's like things that people don't do a lot, and there's a lot of social platforms out there which are basically free to use. So that doesn't at least cost anything. It does take some time, and I think it also takes the founders some time to find which channels are maybe most suitable for them. Because if you're not super active on Facebook, you won't turn into this like super active Facebook poster like overnight.
Or find the relevant groups or areas with
where to post. But maybe finding like your own channel, what is the most suitable one for you, and then just sticking to that and at least using that channel as best as possible.
Yeah. What do you think about like offline versus online engagements in a way that have you noticed that it has been more successful to have like offline meetups or something like that versus then having job ads online or social media channels or other online methods? Have you noticed kind of like pros and cons on those two?
Well, online is in a way, yes, scalable. If you have a good idea of who you're looking for, what your audience should be, and also a clear idea of the message that you want to put out regarding like the job post or the role that you're looking for. But then if you don't, offline could actually be a better alternative, because when you're talking to someone, for example, over lunch or at some event, well, one thing is that you have like 100% engagement from the other person, which isn't, or you won't be able to have online nowadays, because there's so much noise and people are just like switching from
skimming
platform,
through.
skimming through stuff. And then the second is that you'll be able to kind of see their reactions immediately. So when you tell them something, you get like so much more information from them. You see whether they're like, are get like excited, their eyes like widen or something like that, or whether they're kind of like skeptic. You can read their body language. And then a third point would be that you're able to kind of retaliate immediately. That if the other person doesn't understand your message, you're able to add something on top. You're able to ask questions from the other person, or you're able to like elaborate your point to them. So, and then all in all, it's a better way and a faster way to learn, because you get that immediate feedback from the other person.
Yeah. I think that's interesting, and in a way, you get to meet offline a lot less people, but the value of the kind of engagement or the conversations might be a lot higher than online. You might kind of only get the top, but not like that through conversation.
Yes. So I said just to go consistently after those like very, very high level engagement opportunities with individual people in the beginning. And then once you start to learn enough, you start to have some roles which you already have hired for before. Then moving on to the online part makes more sense. But then again, if you are you have a super big online presence, for example, and online is a part of your daily kind of workflow, and you basically live inside LinkedIn, then why not use that channel as much as possible?
Of course, then a combination might be like a good solution. And of course, if you have like good job ads or a defined job that you can kind of post online, or to some very good but free kind of job boards or online portals, that's a good way too. But in a way, combining those two surely takes you further out than only using one of those.
It does, yeah. And I think those tactics also apply for recruiters or people hiring for bigger companies.
For sure.
So if you're hiring for a role that hasn't existed before, then try out this offline way of meeting people, learning, and then once you have a better idea of who you're looking for, you're better at pitching the whole role. Maybe the whole role has changed throughout this learning process. And then you can switch over to the online part. That's something that I least in my previous life as a hands-on recruiter I forgot to do. So I went into like, writing out this job post and then like spreading that, and then going through applications or then like sourcing for people online, trying to find a profile that we had put together based on quite limited information about the market, for example. And then when it was super hard, you kind of didn't know why it was super hard. Well, I think now kind of the reason was that we could have learned a bit more before starting to do those things.
Yeah. And I think in recruiting, the rule of thumb is always quality versus quantity. You want like those few really good and matching candidates versus lots and lots of not matching candidates, because that will take your time to go through them, and in a way, so there's a lot of negative sides in getting the quantity as well.
I don't know why it's super easy to fall into that trap of blasting job ads,
for some reason
getting a huge bunch of applications, and then after going through all of those applications, sending like rejection messages to 99% of the people.
I don't know. For some reason, I think at least we have a lot of clients who are always like, how many applications did we get? How many? And then we're kind of like, well, this and this many, but that's not the point. The point is that these 5 are perfect. In a way, look at those. Don't think about the big number or a small number or whatever the kind of the quantity is. But for some reason, I guess big numbers are kind of attracting. That's why people kind of want everyone to be interested, even though they don't want to hire everyone. They want that right person. So it's a tricky thing. Okay, but let's say you're able to attract the person to your early stage startups. What kind of a contract do you offer? Compensation, equity? What's the thing to do right now? What's right and what's wrong regarding the contract?
That's been very hard for our founders, especially the ones who are first-time founders as well, because it's a quite different world from the bigger companies out there. The contract types have been everything from like a few hours of consulting work to like full-time employment. And you kind of have to be matching what the needs of the potential employee are, what the needs of the company is, what job actually needs to be done, and who can do it in which amount of time.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I'd suggest to just talk things through, and then together with the potential hire, try to think out that what would be the best contract type.
Yeah.
One of our portfolio companies just went through like hiring a consultant, then hiring an intern, then doing this partnership with the other company where they were using their resources, and now like after that ending up like hiring 2 people.
Okay.
And I think they still have a few people who are working part-time. So
they tested out a lot of versions.
You have to try different things, a bit of everything, and then eventually you find out what things work. Then looking at the comp side, compensation model wise, at startups you have the base pay, which is your monthly salary, and then stock options have now become a sort of like de facto way of compensating very early stage employees, because usually the companies don't have a lot of cash in the bank. They have to save that, keep like a decent runway for the company. So then giving out stock options is one way to sort of compensate people and get those early hires into the team early on. And once the company starts growing, then you start to also see like some bonus models and then even like company benefits and perks as part of the whole compensation model.
Yeah, that's thinking about the equity side or the stock options. That's something that like larger or more established companies can't offer. So that's something I think startups can kind of like lift up in a way, that there's an opportunity in a way. Of course, there's a risk as well. You have the both sides. But is there any like best practices, or in a way that how much of equity should you give to, I don't know, founders and first employees, or is there any kind of like, I don't know, even round like suggestions on, for example, how much not to give in a way, or how much you should keep to yourself, or something like that, regarding guidelines for the founding teams?
Well, at Icebreaker, we believe that the founders should actually have an equal split.
Okay.
So each of the founders should have equal amount of equity, because in that way you value each founder equally. And you can kind of think about it the other way around. If there wouldn't be an equal split, then why would you have this person as a founder if you only value their skills and experience and what they can do like this much?
True.
So that's why we always try to encourage to have an equal split with the founders. Then after that, you start to talk about, I think, usually like 1 to 5 to maybe even 10% of equity for the very early stage employees who are joining. Usually it depends a lot on the stage of the company, the seniority of the person who's joining, what role they'll be taking on. And then once the startup starts to grow, that percentage starts to obviously drop, because then you can maybe say that the stock options they already have some value.
Yeah.
And the whole like having those stock options as a part of the compensation model is a good thing to test out risk aversion. So if someone is not willing to take that sort of compensation model, then maybe they're not able to cope also with the higher risk that comes with the whole job. So that's I think a good test in a way.
True. And I'm more thinking about kind of like you have to be able to like be full on in the startup or in the early stages. So in a way, that's a good point.
Yeah.
For the interview or the starting discussions. Nice. What about then thinking about kind of the market situation realistically? What's it like for startups to find talent nowadays, since it's really hard to find developers or sales talent or digital marketers or designers for any company in Finland at least, or elsewhere also? So what's it like for startups right now? How do you feel?
I think I feel like everyone else. So,
Yeah.
it's a tough market. There's definitely a lot of open positions out there, a lot of new companies coming out every day. So that makes the market situation very tough. I checked out the hub, which is this platform which collects kind of or allows startups to put up their company pages for free and then share their job posts there. I think they had like 740 startups listed on their page. So, and that's only in Helsinki.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the amount of other startups that you'll be competing with in a sense.
Yeah.
And there's many companies out there. They have a lot of job posts open, so the market situation is quite tough. But then again, I wouldn't let that sort of crush yourself, because I think that you're actually not competing in a way against the other companies, other startups, because every company is quite unique. And every founding team is different. Every company is in a way building a different product for almost a different market. So I think you just need to kind of have the patience, have the consistency of trying to find that one person who would really much like to work in your company.
Yeah.
And if you have this sort of mindset that that person exists out there, now it's just like a matter of finding that person, then I think that's a good way to keep your drive going. And
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and really like believe in your product or service or whatever you're building so much that you can pitch it out and just keep going, because it might take time. It might not be 1 week or 1 month. It might be 6 months or something until you find that perfect person for that team. But still, kind of keep going.
yeah,
Don't give
and
up.
that also highlights why you should be talking a lot about what you're doing and what you're trying to build and things like that to people in your networks, and also online, because if you don't, then people won't know that you exist and you won't be able to find those people. So
Okay, then regarding events or meetups, if you would suggest places where to find talent like you, where do you meet up people that are like-minded or would like to join your team or your kind of your mission?
um, there's starting to be a lot of events, a lot of meetups out there, also here in the Helsinki area. I think that's a very good thing. So if you go to like meetup.com and just search for tech events in Helsinki, there's like an almost never-ending list of different kinds of meetup groups that are organizing a lot of events. And once you start to learn what you're looking for, you have some idea. I just like start joining some of those and try to be as specific as possible. So well, just was talking to one of our portfolio companies called IP Rally, and they're building a product using Clojure. So they're super excited about joining those Clojure meetups because they get to meet other developers who are working with the same technology. And I think they've even maybe been able to recruit someone from one of those meetups. So that's a like very good example of trying to be specific on who you're trying to meet and find, and then joining those events, those meetups. It could make sense to join those maybe a bit more broader themed events out there as well, because you never know. Then I'd also want to highlight different kinds of communities. So there's a lot of or starting to be a lot of different communities out there also outside the kind of meetup scene. And at least in a bad sense, Finland being sort of quite closed
What do you mean?
country. So there's many closed communities out there. So maybe also finding those and seeing whether you could kind of benefit from them as well. At Icebreaker, we're not only, for example, a VC, but we also host a pretty large community as well. And I think there's now close to 1,000 members there, and we want to make it the best place for people to start, build, or join very strong tech companies.
Yeah.
And that's for example one place where you can find like-minded people. And then obviously you have Maria01 startup hub. There's a lot of these kinds of ecosystems out there, and they're only getting stronger. So diving into those, participating, being active is a good thing to start off with. Obviously, it's not the best thing for everyone. So if your one of your founders is super active in going to meetups and meeting people, and then one person of the team is not, then don't try to kind of force that person to be very active, because they won't end up doing a good job. They won't end up liking it. But so kind of focus on sending those people who really gravitate to that kind of engagements, because they will find it very interesting. They will get energy from that, and then they will end up doing a better job from like a hiring employer branding perspective as well.
So that's kind of a win-win. The person actually enjoys their time, and the company gets like positive visibility. Yeah. In the hiring perspective, that's kind of, I think that's like a super interesting point, since you that's meetups and getting to know people. That's kind of like a long play in a way. You're not looking to hire someone tomorrow that you meet today, but in a way that's a perfect way to kind of get to know people and get your brand out there, which is probably not that well known first, but then kind of like maybe a year from now, the person you met in that closure meetup a year back might be the person you hire today kind of
exactly
in a way. So I think that's like super important, since a lot of people focus on like super short-term events in a way, going to recruitment fairs, which is kind of like super focused on people who are looking for a job today in a way. So kind of taking both sides depending on your situation. I think that's a really important point in a way to remember, that you're not only hiring people who you want to hire tomorrow or next week, but also people who you might be able to hire 3 years from now or along the road later on.
For more like junior talent, I would say that recruiting fairs might make some sense. And then also like university partnerships or organizing some excursion for a specific group of students could also make sense. I was working at Smartly previously, and we did that a lot. I think it was really beneficial for us. And now, for example, one of the Icebreaker portfolio companies has been working extensively with the physics guild from Aalto University. The founders are alumni from that department.
So it's like home base.
And they've gotten like super good like data science side hires from there, and now they have a really good data science team in the company. So finding those kind of specific audiences that you really want to reach out to. And one of our companies also, they reached out to a professor at Helsinki University, and then that professor mentioned about their company on one of their courses or in some channels, and then they ended up getting like a few super good applications from people that are highly relevant. And that was just, the cost of that was basically one email.
Nice. Good example of kind of, you have to be a bit smarter when you don't have the time or the money. In a way, you have to kind of find the ways to do it more efficiently. So
and
good example.
A good example about that is I read, I think it was like several months ago, this job post from San Francisco. There was this startup called, I think, Capwing, and they wrote a blog post about like all the things they tried out and which ended at them like hiring 10 people. And I can send you the link. It was like super interesting to read that what you need to do in San Francisco to hire 10 people. That gives kind of like inspiration for people also here in Helsinki.
Probably some hustle at least.
Yes.
Not wait for the applications.
And a lot of lead bullets, because there really aren't any silver bullets out there.
Good point. What about then Slush is just around the corner. What kind of a role does Slush or similar like huge events in the startup ecosystem kind of play in the recruitment or hiring part? Or how do you view Slush with regards to hiring and finding talent?
I think Slush plays a big role in the sense that they bring a lot of people together at the same place and time. And there's a lot of people also coming from abroad, a lot of international talent. So everyone is there at the same time, same place, which makes it a bit more easy to meet. Um, but also there, I would focus on finding maybe the specific side events that are organized before, during, and after Slush. What is the most relevant for you, and then going to those events. Also doing your homework, so trying to figure out that who is coming to Slush, and then trying to meet or book those meetings already beforehand. Because if you're going to Slush with like a completely empty calendar, it won't be the most effective use of your time.
Yeah.
If your goal is only to watch the speakers and such, then by all means. But if your goal is to actually find and meet people, then you should have a pretty well pre-booked schedule for the whole event.
Yeah. I think those are important parts. And last year, actually, we did a rekrycast episode on kind of how to recruit or hire in Slush. And we had similar points there. And also one, which I think it's super important to kind of all events that you meet a lot of people, is to know how to end a discussion in a way. Because in Slush, you might meet a lot of people, and then someone who's probably not relevant for you now might take a lot of your time in a way. So kind of knowing who you want to meet and focusing on those valuable discussions, and also knowing how to end a discussion and kind of kick it off later if you want to continue further. So
yeah,
good points.
And I'd also gravitate towards these like guerrilla tactics.
True.
So don't, especially for early stage companies, don't take on like sponsorships, because they usually cost a lot of money. They take a lot of your time. Rather go there with a few people. Have your T-shirts that have "we're hiring" on the back or something like that. Print out stickers and all this that you could kind of leave there on the tables. Make a lot of noise online using like the events hashtags and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So try to figure out a lot of these different ways that you can actually have a much larger impact, and maybe focus on the awareness part. So how you can just like spread out your name, your brand out there, and then see what kind of impact that has.
Good. Everyone listening, take those tips and go to Slush and succeed there. All right, so heading towards the end or the wrap up. Thank you, Jukka, for an amazing discussion on really interesting stuff. To kind of summarize, what do you consider to be kind of like the, let's say, 3 to 5 most important takeaways from these discussions, or other things that you haven't mentioned yet for someone listening or watching? What should they at least remember after this podcast?
A lot of stuff. How to summarize that all? Well, maybe the first point being on just start meeting potential hires on a very consistent basis. So at least one person a week, and that will end up you talking to, I think, a sufficient amount of people, and doing that also consistently, because that usually gets left out pretty easily when you're fully booked. Also, document your recruiting process, what you're looking for, your maybe even onboarding and offboarding processes. So just writing them down how they are now, and then using those, and then also improving them once you learn and get better at hiring and onboarding. That makes a lot of sense as well. Don't be shy about telling what you're working on. Talk about your work, about your company, what you're trying to build and do. That will get people excited. And then maybe for the founders or like the CEOs of the early stage companies, start also having regular one-on-ones with your employees, because you learn a lot about why they're working at your company, and well, obviously what can be improved inside the company, but you also learn a lot about how to then pitch your company outside to new hires, to potential recruits. So make those your most valuable meetings that you have.
Nice, thank you. Good summary, I would say. Definitely relevant things. All right, well, I think we're taking our time up right now, but thank you very much for the discussion, Jukka. It was great having you on rekrycast, and hopefully we'll get to meet again on topic.
Thanks for having me. This was a super great experience.
Great. And thank you everyone for watching and or listening. You'll find this episode at aTalent.fi, Spotify, SoundCloud, and also Apple Podcasts. So let us know what you think, and until next time. Bye.